Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our session today. I am Megan Blacker. I'm one of the advisors at Careers Service. So thank you for taking the time out to spend with us. But before we start, can you please, I think most of you have your mic switched off and cameras switched off. You are most welcome to ask any questions in the meeting chat. Even better if you can raise your hand and we can hear your voice so that we can make it more interactive. Yeah, so I think without further ado, let's start. I think someone has pressed the recording button already. So I hope that is okay. Yeah, let's get started. So what is our session going to be covering today? We're going to have a little look at exactly what are the roles at UCT. Not only leadership roles, but roles of responsibility for students. And I think a big part of being successful at these roles or getting these roles is understanding skills. We'll spend a little bit of time with skills, and then I'll share some tips for success. We'll definitely look at how to target your application and how this all fits into your career development. So it is all good and well to obviously have an impact on students' experiences, but yeah, there's a lot to say about career development. So I think before I continue, what I'd like to do is, if possible, can you all go to your browsers? I'm going to, in our meeting chat, going to put the menti.com code. So let me just do that quickly. So this is the code that I'm sharing with you. Please go to menti.com. And what I'd like to do is find out which roles you are actually interested in. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. And all of you are allowed, I think, 3 options. So the question is, which student positions or roles are you wanting to apply for? So I'll give you just a minute to type in your responses and see what comes out of it. So the code is 67532954. Okay, so we're seeing subwarden coming out, resident head student, secretary general, YIPA. What else? Okay, dining hall monitor, fantastic. Some of you for faculty council, tutoring, mentoring. Okay, receptionist, I see coming up a few times as well. I see some SRC. Fantastic. So really interesting to see what is coming through. I see orientation leader seems to be the most popular. So let me stop sharing my screen. Thank you so much for taking part. I am appreciative of that. So let's get started and I'll share the presentation. Okay, so I think what is important to unpack is the different types of roles that you actually can be part of. So obviously location is important. It might be in res, like we've seen some of you put down. It might be within societies at UCT, and it might even be within faculties. I think it's also important to note that either it can be an elected position or it could be an appointed position, and that will then determine that application process. Some of these roles are voluntary and others are paid positions. And also, I think to understand the processes that need to be taken to actually apply for these positions. So just to touch on residence positions that are available. So you can see the first one there is Subwarden, which I think was quite a popular selection. And if you look, Subwarden, the front desk assistant, dining hall monitors, these are all paid positions. Okay, which means that there's an application process that needs to be followed, which means that you usually have to submit a CV, possibly your transcript in some cases, possibly a motivation letter or cover letter, and usually they will request referees. Some of these positions will be advertised within your residences, so on notice boards, perhaps on your Vula page. And so always have a look out for anything that is posted. Okay, so just looking a little bit deeper at the subwarden additional information, usually it would be a senior student, someone who's had knowledge of the residents that he's applying to or she's applying to. Being responsible for well-functioning residents as well as academic welfare will be big on the list of responsibilities, and working well within the management team at that residence. Obviously, your front desk assistants and dining hall monitors are more roles of responsibility, and it's great for students who are starting their academic journey at UCT to consider taking on these roles. Then coming to house committee members, or executive committee members at RES, these are more elected positions where you perhaps have to craft or prepare a manifesto. And basically what a manifesto is, for those of you that don't know, it's a public declaration of what you intend to do. And so this usually would be presented in front of the entire residence, and you will then be voted in. So people will vote for you. There are other roles that are taken up within residences, like being a tutor at RES, being a mentor at RES, and all positions that, for you to consider. So what about faculty positions? So most of the faculty positions are paid positions. Being a tutor within your faculty, being a lab assistant, for example, being an orientation leader, which was quite big on the list that you shared earlier on, and a library assistant. So these again would take the process of an application package where you'd have to submit documents that are requested. Again, tutors are those students, usually they are more senior, and it also depends on the faculty that you're coming from. In some faculties, they will only take tutors that are postgraduate students. Obviously, bearing in mind, if you were to go for orientation leader, it is something that is of a short duration at the beginning of the year, and usually training takes place the year before. So just to be well aware of that. And you also have to start the first semester ahead of everyone else, because you have to plan and prepare for being part of that orientation team. And so for those of you with the faculty student councils, oh, I'm not sure what's happened. I've just lost the presentation. So let me try that again. So just bear with me. I'm not sure what's happened. Okay, so let's resume. Faculty positions. We're right here. Okay, so guys, I'm not sure what is happening, but if it happens again, I'm going to have to not be in presentation mode, which means that I won't be able to see any of the comments. So let's try one last time. So we're at the faculty student council section. So you could either be interested in undergrad or postgraduate faculty council members. But as some of you know, this is closed. The call for that is closed the 27th of August. Usually there's a nomination form that has to be filled in, crafting your manifestos, a campaign, and then a voting exercise as well. And then last but not least, positions within societies. These are obviously all voluntary. And the process, I must say here, is dependent on the society. So either you'd have to submit your CV, your letter of motivation, as well as your referees, or it will be presenting a manifesto in front of the society, in front of the executive members, but it really just depends on the society that you are interested in. So I think the big take-home message is that read the instructions really, really carefully. Added to this, there might be opportunities for subcommittee members, and these are students that will be needed for various activities or projects within the society. So obviously, again, it will be advertised either on the Vula page, or it would be on their Facebook page, or whichever platform that society actually uses. So this brings us onto the skills section, and I think this is really, really important because often students, there's a difference between knowing what a skill is and what an attribute is. So a skill is the ability to do something really well. And obviously with time, as you practice that skill, you will get better and you will improve at it. Whereas an attribute or a quality is characteristic of like who you are, okay, of your personality, is part of who you are. So being motivated or strong-willed. And I think it's important to note that, you know, you will come into some of these roles already with skills that you have developed in other activities. And being in that role means that you will also develop that specific skill and other skills that are new to you as well. And I think it's important to always think very carefully about what those skills are. And what will assist you with this would be identifying your skills that you already have and that you may need in the roles that are offered. And our website, careers.uct, is really, really helpful for this. So if you were to click on the student tab on the website and you were to go to the understanding your skills or identifying your skills, you would then see a drop-down list. It's obviously not exhaustive, but what is really cool is if you were to click on, let's say, for example, leadership or any one of them, what I like is that you have a definition. And having a definition of a skill is really important. If you don't see a skill listed, just simply Google it to be able to understand exactly what does that entail. Another additional advantage of the website is that there are some interview questions that are there. So what this is helpful for, apart from preparing you for any possible interviews, is the fact that it allows you to start thinking about answers to that question. How can you evidence the skill that you say that you have or that you are needing to obviously fulfill that role? And so we'll come a little bit later onto the CV section, which is really, really important. So what about tips for success? Obviously, start off by seeing what is required. Really, really important. Read the fine print, okay? What does the advert say? What are the details on Vula? What does it say? Follow those instructions really carefully. Watch out for closing dates, okay? What do you know about the position already? What does it entail? And think about why you want to apply. I think this is really, really important because when you are up for presenting a manifesto, for example, or you are up for an interview, knowing exactly why you are wanting to apply will become really important. I see a message from Ndili. Am I the only one who can't hear properly? I'm not sure. Can anyone else, are you hearing me clearly? Some thumbs up or not? Yeah. So Ndili, I'm wondering whether it may be your network possibly. So I'll continue, and just remember, Ndili, we will have the recording available and I'll share the PDF of the slides afterwards as well. I see your hand. Please go ahead. Mfedzin Zenzi.
I wanted to say who could hear you. I can hear you. There's no problem.
Thank you. Thank you so much for letting me know. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'll continue. So the next step that we have for success, Yondela, I see your hand up. Okay, there's some suggestions in the chat.
Oh yeah, thank you. I just wanted to ask if is it possible for one in the housecom to occupy more than one position? If yes, what is the maximum number? And if no, what happens if one has occupied more than one position?
Sure, that is a very good question, and I'm not sure who's answered it. I didn't see the name. Is there anyone in the audience that could possibly answer? I am of the understanding that it would be just one position. However, within the executive committee at the House Commons, but I'm wondering whether you could take up a tutor role as well or a mentor role as well. So I'm not sure if anyone in the audience is able to answer that. Kevin, I see your hand.
Hi, I was just going to say that you are allowed. I think the maximum is three. For instance, like, well, I'm Housecom and SFDA, but then there are people who are Housecom, SFDA, and library guards or watch people. I think the maximum number of positions is three.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing, Kevin. And then Liza has also said might have more than one portfolio in House Committee. So thank you for that, Liza. And then Yondela, okay, I see your hands down. Okay, so the second tip for success would be speak to students in the role already. And I think this is really important because it means that you can get information from them. And a tool that we often suggest students to use is something called informational interviewing. And this is a resource that is found on our website or on Vula. Again, go to the students tab, go to making applications, go to interviews, and you'll see it right there. Lufuno, I see your hand.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say, like, with regards to like having more than one portfolio or like occupying more than one leadership position, I think it differs with the residences because I know my res at Fuller Hall, you weren't really allowed because they're saying like give other people opportunities to also, because if you're applying for one thing and the other thing, that's like less chances of other students like occupying like the
Yes,
leadership positions. So they mostly like inspire or like, yeah, say that you should just apply for one so that you can give other people chances
yes,
also. Yeah.
yes. So thank you, Lufuno, for sharing that with us. That makes a lot of sense. And I think just coming from an academic point of view, that your first and foremost would be your studies. And so you'd have to be really good at time management in order to juggle the different roles that you might take on. I think I'll take one other hand, and I see your Lisa. I'm just wary of time as well. Do you want to share something with the group?
No, I just wanted to ask a quick question. I don't think it will take too long. But I wanted to ask, with regards to applying for a position, let's say I'm asking this for mainly like second years who are going to third years who might go into self-catering reses. Could you apply for an SFDA position, like a receptionist position, and then be transferred to another res, or how is that possible in any way?
Sure. Another good question that I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I would suspect that the residences would have their own kind of guidelines and rules around that. Um, so it might be worth finding out specifically from the res that you're currently in. And Liza's also sharing that you should ask the Department of Student Affairs. They might be able to specifically answer those questions. So I'm seeing a lot of hands, and I'm just mindful of time. Um, Lufuno, do you want to share something that's related to what your Lisa asked?
Yeah, I just want to answer the question. So, that also depends with like the different races because I know some races don't have like front desk assistants, but then with the races that do have front desk assistants, so the interviews are done. Say, for example, for next year, the interviews are done this year. So if you're staying in another race, you wouldn't have taken part in the interviews that are done this year because you'd still be a resident of the other race. So and also because like when you're like a front desk assistant, you need to know more about the residents. So if you're like going in and you're still like a junior in the residence, then you're not gonna be able to probably answer most of the questions. So yeah, I think that's why they do it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us, Lufuno. So I'm going to move on, if that's okay. So one of the tips, like we said, was speak to students in the role already. And I mentioned informational interviewing, which is a really helpful tool to use to gather information that will assist you in your application. So questions that you may possibly ask people for examples of what they have done in the role. Ask possibly what the best part of that role is, what the worst is, what the challenges are, what may be unexpected in the role. And obviously for them to share any advice with you would be helpful. And all of this knowledge that you've gathered through these conversations or through these informational interviews that you've conducted will also then allow you to make a very good application for that potential role. So let's look at tips specifically for subwardens, for tutors, and some of the elected roles. So just with the subwarden, skills and attributes that are usually looked for would be someone who's highly motivated, someone with a good academic record, and as Lufuno, you shared, someone with knowledge of that particular res is necessary, and to have leadership ability or experience is also helpful. So obviously tips here, it would be helpful if you've already had roles of responsibility or leadership roles. And so it means that for those of you that are starting out at res in your first year, look out for those positions like being a receptionist or a dining hall monitor, because it's a starting point for you. And then being a tutor within a faculty, again, you're going to have good academic achievement. You're going to have to think about engagement skills, being able to facilitate and teach students. And obviously tips to be able to stand out above the rest of the applicants would be having been a tutor or mentor, possibly at your high school, for peers within your grade. Certain short courses may help, and any form of teaching or tutoring outside of academia would also be helpful. Moving on to elected positions in societies and residences, you may want to think about aligning it with your discipline. So perhaps taking on a treasurer role if you're coming from the Faculty of Commerce, for example, or if you are interested in marketing and branding, to be the PR and marketing portfolio holder. And I think really importantly, if it means that the role needs for you to have a manifesto, it has to have SMART goals. So what do I mean by this? SMART goals refers to being specific about what you're wanting to do as a member of that society or at that res. M is for measurable, to know how you could actually measure your impact. And I think this is really important, especially when you are translating what you've done previously onto your CV. It's really good to be able to have an impact in that way. Your goal has to be attainable and obviously realistic about any changes that you're wanting to make or improvements that you're wanting to make within a specific time frame, and all very important. So again, you need to know what currently exists, whether it is at that society, whether it is at that residence that you are in. You need to know what works well, and you need to know what could be improved upon. And so all of these tips will help you to make a really good application or manifesto. So how to target your application. This specifically would be for the roles that require that application package. So the documents that are part of that package would be your CV. Usually it would be a cover letter or a letter of motivation. We often encourage students to craft a letter, even if it's not requested. And the only reason for this is if you think about your kind of fellow students, your colleagues, most of you have been involved in similar activities, and your cover letter kind of has your voice on it. It kind of has your stamp, your personality, to kind of showcase exactly what you are bringing to the table. Often there's an application form that you need to complete, and they will request referees as well. So the key to getting noticed would be having a great CV. And we'll spend a little bit of time on this now. Obviously, your motivation letter has to be well written, and we'll delve into what does it actually mean, a well-written motivation letter or cover letter. And then also, more importantly, when you are shortlisted, you need to know how to prepare properly for your interview. So what about this great CV that we're talking about? So I'm going to have to refer you to our website or to Vula. I'll show you that in a moment. We have a mini series called Own Your CV, and there are about 6 episodes that are really, really helpful to watch. And what it does is it takes apart the different sections of your CV. So not only in roles for students at UCT, but even for internships or graduate positions, it will really come in handy. Often not more than 2 pages. Please don't submit a 4-page CV. Whoever's going to be looking at it will just lose interest. Also, when you're thinking about being professional, think about the format of your CV, the language that you are using. Draw from your experiences throughout the different activities that you've been involved in. And also make sure that your skills section that you have in your CV aligns for what is required within the role that you're applying for. Very, very important. So you all come with, like, I don't know, 50 different skills, but you're going to highlight the ones that are necessary specifically for that post. I think that is really, really important to understand. So just to show you on the Vula site, if you're wanting to go in via that route, our little icon is next to the SRC and above the libraries icon. So just click on that. Or if you use our careers service website, you'll find it there. Students tab, making applications, and then clicking on CV section. So this is the very important part about how are you specifically going to target your CV, okay? Especially within the activities section and especially within the skills section. So on the left-hand side of the table, you find the different requirements, the requirements in terms of skills that might be necessary. And on the right, you have your evidence, which is really, really important. It's not enough just to say that you are good at problem solving. You need to think of examples. So if you look at leadership, think about your time at school. If you're just starting out, think about, have you taken on being a captain of a team, or were you a prefect at school? Were you a leader within any other student organizations or even within your community? So kind of try to think out of the box. And often it doesn't mean that it's a leadership role, but think of exactly what does that skill entail? It entails being able to inspire others. It means being able to motivate someone or team to be able to get to the finishing line. So really try to think out of the box. And I'm going to encourage you that if you need support with your CV, please feel free to book a one-on-one slot with us, because this is where we can kind of help you to target specifically that application that you are making. If it's where they are looking for someone who's friendly and welcoming, so let's say someone who's going to be an orientation leader, for example, think about any client service role that you may have been involved in. So even waitering or having helped any group with orientation is really, really helpful. Problem solving, think about any issues that you had to proactively kind of think out of the box and provide a solution. It doesn't matter the context, whether it's in your part-time job that you've previously had, whether it's at high school, whether it's within your own community, or even in your volunteering position. Any working with students, think about any experiences. So have you been a class rep before? Have you been part of a society that you can use now that you're applying to be a subwarden? So definitely, kind of extend those examples. Facilitating groups, again, any examples with having handled groups as a school sports coach, for example, a senior leader at high school. And then with communication, and I think this is a really important skill going across all of those roles. Think about your verbal skills. Have you been on the debating team? Have you been a class rep before? Maybe writing skills are necessary depending on the society that you're in. So very, very importantly to get this part right in your CV. Asifile, I see your hand. Do you want to go ahead?
Hi, it's Asipile. I wanted to ask, so with the like the requirement, like the leadership stuff that's listed on my left-hand side,
Yeah.
would the examples fall under your cover letter, or would you put them in your CV?
So a
as
great
well?
question. Yeah, that's a great question. So look, your cover letter is going to kind of almost highlight bits that you've put in your CV. And so that depends on your experiences. So I would say definitely you'll find it in your CV, but it's how you craft your cover letter and what you are wanting to highlight to the person on that selection committee that, you know, exactly what it is. So you may actually mention it in both or just your CV. But again, if you're struggling with it, then I'd encourage you to book a session with an advisor. And often when you do that and you want input specifically with your cover letter and CV, attach the instructions for that position or the advert that goes out as well. So I hope that helps answer your question, Asifile.
Yes, it did.
Thanks. So just moving on to your cover letter or letter of motivation. The difference here is that, remember, your CV is a very objective document. It is written in short sentences without using pronouns, whereas your cover letter you are going to be using full sentences. Do not make any wild claims. You cannot say something like, I'm perfect person for the role, because you're actually not saying anything. Whatever you say has to be justified with evidence or examples of why you are saying what you are saying. You also need to know what you have to offer in terms of your skills, even your values and your strengths, and use your own experiences. So a good example would be if you had a great experience with an orientation leader or even with your mentor, you know, think about what that felt like and what that meant. If your experience was a negative one, what can you do differently? And so that will help you to craft your letter of motivation. And again, I'm going to then direct you to our resource. Either you can see it on Vula or you can go to our website to check out you know, that resource on writing a cover letter. I want to stress that a cover letter is a formal document. So it means when you think way back when you were at school, you know, having your address, having the details of a business or formal letter is important. What about preparing for your interview? So this is really key. Again, we have a mini series, Own Your Selection Process. I'm going to be directing you specifically to episode 4, which talks about how do you actually go about answering interview questions, and also episode 5, which speaks about virtual interviews, because I'm sure that, well, some of the interviews will be virtual. A great technique would be to answering situational questions or competency-based questions would be the STAR technique. It just helps you to structure and answer the questions in a coherent manner, in an organized way. So S is for setting the scenario, so setting the scene. T is for the task at hand, so what had to be done. The activity speaks to exactly what your involvement is and what you did, and the result is obviously the outcome of that. So it's just a nice way of being able to organize your answer to that question. I think it's very, very important to be authentic. You can only be who you are. And so you know, you might know the exec committee member for the society now, but you can only be the person that that you are. So just be yourself in your interview. And like I said before, substantiate any claim or any statement that you make with evidence, with examples of what that actually means. And so, Freddie, I see you've put down, could we please have this PowerPoint presentation? Absolutely. I will share it with you at the end. I'll actually email all of you with the PDF slides. So this brings us on to, you know, these UCT roles, whether they are roles of responsibility or leadership roles. How does this link in with your career development? So look, apart from having or making an impact on student experiences, you know, if you kind of think beyond just your life here at UCT, what about that career development? Any exposure to any position is going to be good experience. Okay, and this is experience that you can then draw in on your job applications going forward. Also bear in mind that employers look for well-rounded applicants, not just employers. I mean, if you're thinking about applications for bursaries and scholarships, they're looking for students that are well-rounded. And like I said previously, you will develop many skills in all of these student roles. Examples like time management, engagement skills, problem solving. And I think leading on from this, if you look at this slide, these are skills that employers are currently looking for. And so if you think about critical thinking, and you're thinking about leadership skills, and you're thinking about innovation, these are skills that develop, yes, within your academic program, but also in all of those activities that you become involved in. So yeah, well worth being very aware of these skills. And this is just an example to show you exactly how employers advertise positions. So this is from Procter & Gamble. It's a sales manager's position, but I'm just wanting to highlight to you. So they're looking for bachelor's or master's students. They're looking for students with leadership skills, someone who's able to collaborate with diverse groups of people, someone who's creative, innovative with analytical thinking. So this is just a great example to show you actually, you know, seeing this advert and thinking about, you know, how you can then translate all of these experiences that you are undertaking on an application that you will make in the future. And that brings us to the end. What I will do is, this is a slide with some links. So like I said, I will share this with you, and you'll be able to directly kind of go into the sites that I've mentioned as well. So let me stop sharing or stop presenting and switch on the camera. Any other questions? So could Zanye, sorry, I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. I would like to work for Career Services Front Desk. When are your applications opening? Sure, that is a very, very good question. Currently, we haven't advertised anything yet, but I would direct you to the My Career portal. So have a look out for that. When or if we do actually advertise any posts. I'm not sure if Liza is still here, if you're wanting to add to what I've said, Liza, or have you dipped out of the session?
No, I'm here.
Do you...
The front desk is still at home, so we're all still working remotely. So there isn't a front desk at the minute.
Sorry, that is up. Yeah, sorry, I should have said that at the beginning. We're still all working very virtually. But possibly in the future, so have a look out for that. And then Chido, I see your hand. Do you want to go?
Yes. I just wanted to ask about international students, because it seems as if most of the job offers that you post, they usually want you, like they usually ask for South African citizens. So I just wanted to ask, do you ever get people coming to you also looking for not just South African students, but then just international students as well?
So, Chido, yeah, that's a very good point that you bring up. I know that there are some global companies that are employer partners at Career Service. And I just want to show you, so just bear with me. So I know that the opportunities are limited and not as many as those that ask for. Sorry, let me just get out of this quickly. I'm just taking, presenting. Sorry, just bear with me for a seckie. I just want to get out of my browser. And then I'm going to take you to our website. So just bear with me. So I'm sharing my screen and I'm jumping to our Career Service website. And I'm going to go all the way to the right, which says Media and Publications. And where I'm taking you to is our guide 2021. So there are guides that are published every year. But what I'm wanting to show you, about 2/3 of the way in. Sorry, let me just go a little bit further. Here we go. So there are some organizations I just want to see. So for example, like I said, it's limited, but there are some opportunities. So you can see Bain and Company, they do not require South African citizenship to actually apply. And what is also nice here is that they recruit across faculties, but obviously this is for consultancy. And so it may be just worth you having a look to see. I think a lot of them do say yes for SA citizenship, but Boston as well, yes. Okay, so Bowman's is, they recruit law students, and I see they don't require South African citizenship. So yeah, it's just well worth checking out if you didn't know about the guide. And then something else that I'd like to show you while I have the opportunity, if you are interested, it's under the media and publications. So if I just show you, there are some interesting recordings of webinars that we've had before. And so some career conversations, if anything tickles your fancy within a specific sector, these professionals have come and spent time with us to talk about their career journey. But also, more importantly, we've had companies come and talk to students, and we've called these sessions Careers Uncovered. So if you're into tech or consulting or accounting or law, jump in. So I know that's not really answering your entire question, Chido. So let me just stop sharing. But yeah, those opportunities exist, but they are limited.
Okay. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Any other questions? Anything else? So we've got about 15 minutes left. I see your hand. Is that Taffy? Hi. You're welcome to speak. Okay, so I think if there aren't any other questions,
sorry to interrupt you. There is one question about whether the PowerPoint will be shared after the after the session.
Absolutely, it will be shared. What I'll do is I'll send you the PowerPoint as well as our feedback form. I'll email it to each of you, and then you'll have it. And then also the recording should be in the meeting chat once we're done with the session. So you will find the recording here as well in the meeting chat. Okay, and then there's a question, the difference between a cover letter and a motivational letter. So for all intents and purposes, they're basically the same thing. A letter of motivation or a cover letter would kind of, that first paragraph is just saying, what your application package is. So your CV, any application forms that you needed to fill in, and the details as to why you are a good candidate for whatever the role is that you are applying for. But once again, have a look at our resources. It will really help you in crafting that letter. So I see a few hands. Let me just go into the participants. I can see who's waiting. So Taffy, I see your hand. Do you want to go ahead?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can, very softly, but I can hear you.
My mic was, I had trouble. But I wanted to ask for basically how to be realistic about like leadership positions, especially during like first year, because a lot of the time, in my experience anyway, it was really difficult to decide because you're thinking, I can't manage to take up a leadership position because I don't know, my focus has to be academics. So how do you get past that, basically?
So I think you're making a very good point, Taffy. Look, your first year is a major adjustment from whether you have come from matric or whether you've taken a gap year. Just maybe for some of you, it's also that you're in a different environment, completely away from your family. And so we usually encourage students just, their priority is the academic program. To kind of get used to just being in a different space. But we also encourage students in their first year to actually see, are there any societies that they are interested in joining? So just to become members. And in that way, you obviously, you make friends. You learn a little bit about that specific society. So even if it's, I'm just using a silly example, the ballroom society, if it dance is your passion, that you kind of join them. And then, it's as you develop as a student, you also develop your career developmental journey, if I can put it that way. And so in your second year, we kind of encourage students to then kind of look to taking up different positions. It doesn't have to be, like I said, leadership roles. Roles of responsibility exist as well. And so it's kind of a slow build up to when from your first year to intermediary, and then your final year would be also kind of then stepping into kind of bigger leadership roles, if I can put it that way. So I'm hoping that answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Atule, I see your hand.
Oh, hi, Megan.
Hi.
I think I have two questions. So the first one is about what to put on a CV and on a cover letter. So on a CV, you put your skills, and when you go through other templates online and just getting an idea of how your CV should look like. Some people, they do kind of explain their CV maybe with a sentence. I mean, their skills on a CV with a sentence or two. But then when I'm writing my CV, I'm like, should I be writing this on the cover letter or on the CV? And also, how much wordy can your CV be? Because when I look on the internet, some people, it's their cover letter instead of being a CV. So I'm like, what's the maximum number can I put on the CV? Because even with other jobs, some jobs you feel like you need to explain what you were doing, maybe just a sentence or two, but also you also feel like you should include that on your cover letter. So I just want to know to what extent can you write on your CV, because I know it should be as minimalistic as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and the second question is, some jobs, when you apply, they say that all your documents, they should be in one attachment, or you should include all of them in one PDF, you see.
Yes.
So my question now is, which one should be in the front? Is it the CV, then motivational letter, and then the supporting documents, or the motivational letter, CV, and then the supporting documents?
So it's true. So both good questions. I'll answer the second one first. So I would go with how they actually word the order in the instructions, and I would put it that way. I must say, just to comment on the single PDF document, that in itself is a test for applicants, and if you don't do it that way, even if you're the most perfect candidate for that role or that post, you actually won't even be shortlisted because you didn't follow the instructions. So the order would be the order that they actually put it. I would do it that way. But I'm sure that the person who receives it would, they'll just go through to see that all of the documents that are requested have been added. And I think that's the most important thing. So to come back to your first question about your CV and your cover letter. So I think what I'm going to do is just to demonstrate it, because look, there is so much information, on the web. But once again, I'm on our website. And I'm going to go to making it. I'm under the student tab, and I'm going to go to making applications. And I just want to show you this. So this mini series will answer your questions. Because you can see there are 6 episodes, like I said, and each episode takes each section of the CV. And so you were mentioning, it's like it's difficult to know how much do you put on your CV or how little do you put on your CV. And I almost think it's almost a skill in itself to be able to target your CV to an application. So what I suggest to you is, have a generic CV. Put in everything that you've done, that you've been involved in. And when you see that opportunity that you are interested in, whatever role that might be, whether it's a student role or a part-time job outside of UCT, let's say, you're going to look at that role, that job description, the type of candidate that they are interested in, and you're then going to take out of the CV, the generic CV that you have, everything that is irrelevant. And you're going to kind of use words that are similar in the advert so that you are directly targeting that. But also think about, what does the job entail? If it, and let's use an example like the front desk assistant. So it is engaging with students as they come in, greeting them, possibly they coming to you if they have any queries or issues or questions, you being able to direct them very efficiently to wherever it is that they are needed. Maybe there's a little bit of administrative tasks that are necessary, possibly answering the telephone if there are calls coming in, and so forth and so on. So you think carefully, okay, so this is the job description. This is what I need to do. Let me think. In my past experiences, can I align any of those past activities that I've been involved in to this job? And that is what you highlight, because you're wanting to almost say, look, I can do the job because I've had somewhat of a similar experience, maybe in a different context, but I've had a similar experience previously. And that is how you target your CV. And then when it comes to your cover letter or your letter of motivation, and so let me just show you what I really like about this resource, and you find it on Vula as well, is I like it because it tells you exactly what each paragraph in your letter is kind of speaking to. And again, this letter is not going to go on for pages on end. It's going to be 1 page. The smallest font size that you use is font size 11. And so the language that you use is going to be very concise and to the point, so that you can kind of get in all the important bits. And so it directs you, it says exactly like paragraph 3, showcase your skills and qualifications. So there will be overlap with your CV. You won't take everything from your CV, but you're going to kind of take 3 or 4 important points and transfer it to your letter, which will have your own voice to it, if that makes sense. But if you struggle, I challenge you to, not challenge you, that sounds weird. I encourage you to book an appointment with an advisor to assist you with that. So look at the mini series first, see the opportunity that you want, target your CV, and then come to us and say, look, have a review of my CV, have a review of my letter. And that's where we can definitely assist you. I saw a third hand, but I'm not sure if you still have your question. So let me just check the meeting chat. I think. Okay, so Letabo, I see your question. Could you also mention the difference between a motivational letter and a manifesto? So a manifesto is something that is more public. So you are going to sit and you're going to think, sure, what is my vision for the society, let's say? What am I, if that's what they are requesting? Or if you are wanting to, let's use another example, maybe house comms. You wanting to be part of that executive committee in RES, and the requirements are that you are needing to craft a manifesto. So you're going to have to think, sure, what is my vision for this RES? What is it that I can do in my capacity that is going to speak to those SMART goals that I've mentioned before? And so it's almost a public declaration. You're going to stand there and you're going to summarize exactly what it is that you envision for your RES. I don't know if that helps. So a letter of motivation is very different. It's more personalized. And obviously, if you are standing in front of your residents, they're going to ask you very specific questions, which you are then going to have to answer. That might, come from whatever those goals are that you've presented to them. So Bongi, let's see, for the letter, I would write the address of my residence as my address. If I plan outside, do I have to repeat the address if I'm writing motivation to my residence? That's a good question. You could maybe just have your room, your contact details, and then to who you are addressing the letter to. So yeah, but yeah, it seems a little bit silly to repeat that. And then Lerato, I missed some of the sessions. I'm sorry if I was asked before. When we get to postgraduate and want to tutor, do you know when the tutor positions are made available? And is this done with various faculties or something? Okay, so look, with being a tutor within a faculty, that will be handled by the faculty. So often, if they know that you're now a postgraduate student, you will get an email to say, look, these are the tutors that we are looking for. Are you interested? So often it would be either on that a personalized email going out to postgraduate students. It will be posted on Vula, for example, on the faculty's Vula page. So it would be very specific to that faculty. And is this done within the various faculties, or is it something that is advertised on the career service like orientation? Yeah, so no, so that is that is specific to faculties. Lerato. Neo, piggybacking off of Lerato, as for departmental roles, are they often posted and where are they advertised? So often the departmental roles, faculty roles definitely will be faculty specific. Not all of them will come through my career. Mostly it would be dealt with by the faculty. Neo. I think that's the end of it. So yeah, so it's 2 minutes to go. I will be emailing all of you. Thank you for attending and spending time for us, and thank you for adding to our discussion. It's really, really helpful for those of you that answered some of the questions. I do appreciate it. And all the best with your applications and manifestos. I wish you well. Tomorrow we have a session on applying for postgraduate studies. So for those of you that are considering it, you are most welcome to register via My Career, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you.